Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I want to do something a little bit different. I know you're used to seeing a lot of reviews and a lot of kind of sports tutorials on this channel, but I also do portrait photography and other things. But I want to answer some questions that I keep getting asked about very basic things in photography. And so the next couple of days I'm going to make a series of videos that kind of answer these general questions. If you're an experienced photographer, you're probably going to get absolutely nothing out of these little guides. So today I want to talk specifically about the absolute bare bones basic gear that I think that you need to get serious about portrait photography. School has just started and things are a little bit different than when I was in school, at least here in Southern California. When I was growing up, we had to get our senior pictures done before the school year started. Now the majority of kids in this area are getting their senior portraits done at the beginning of the school year. So I've been out doing a lot of senior portrait sessions here the last couple of weeks, and there's a few places where I shoot and I see a lot of brand new photographers out there shooting, because unfortunately not everybody's going to hire a professional photographer to do senior pictures because it can be expensive. And I've had a lot of these people approach me and ask me, like, well, what do I need to do what do I need to get started, or how can I get better, this, that, and the other. And I've had a lot of family friends contact me asking, well, what do I absolutely have to buy to get started in portrait photography? So this is my thoughts on the absolute cheapest way you can go about getting serious about portrait photography. The first thing that I'm going to recommend is a lens. The lens that came with your camera, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a lousy lens, and it's just not going to work very well for portrait photography because of the aperture settings in that lens. It's going to be very difficult for you to get that nice blurry background that we want whenever we do portraits. Plus, those lenses aren't very sharp, they have focus problems. There's all kinds of reasons why the lenses that come with your camera just are not good lenses. So I highly recommend a 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 lens for portrait photography. That's what I use probably for 75% of my portraits because it works well. It's a good lens. I mean, there are other lenses that I do like to use for portrait photography, but I always seem to fall back on my 70 to 200. But it's an expensive lens. They are anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, so it's out of the price range for most people just starting out. So a lens that I really recommend is something like this. This is a Canon 50 millimeter f1.8 lens. It costs about $125. Nikon makes a version of the 50 millimeter f1.8 lens. I think it's a little bit more expensive, but not much. Now, this lens, what it has is it has an f1.8 aperture. So what that's going to allow you to do, it's going to allow you to make a nice blurry background behind your subject. And that's something you're really going to want in portrait photography. Now, this isn't the best built lens in the world. As you can see, I actually dropped this while I was getting ready to make this video and I broke it. I've had it for a long time, so I mean, yeah, I'm irritated that I broke it because I'm cheap and I hate breaking anything. But they're not the best built in the world, but it will get the job done for you just starting out. Yes, there are better lenses for doing portrait photography, like an 85 millimeter lens, but the price is also going to go up significantly. So if you're just starting out and you're on a budget, you really need to get a better lens, and a 50 millimeter f1.8 is definitely a way to go. Now, one of the things that I really recommend, and I don't think a portrait photographer can live without, and it surprises me the number of portrait photographers I know who don't carry something like this with them everywhere they go. I always have a reflector with me, and I'll be honest with you, I probably don't use it as much as I should, but I always have it with me because they are so incredibly handy and they are cheap. I've got several reflectors. I recommend you go with a large one. This costs me under $20 on Amazon, and it's a 5-in-1 reflector. You can see this thing's, I don't know, 4 feet tall and 3 feet wide. And like I said, it's a 5-in-1 reflector. So you can see you got the silver side here. Sorry, I'm a little limited on space right here. There's a black side here, and then on the inside, you've also got gold, and you've got white. And then you also have the centerpiece, which is actually what kind of supports this and holds it open, is a white diffusion material. This white diffusion material is what I use the majority of the time. Whenever I'm shooting a subject in bright sunlight, I'll have somebody hold this up. I'll just take this whole cover off, and have them hold this white diffusion material up, and it just softens the light on my subject. I really couldn't live without it because I shoot a lot in harsh light. Unfortunately, I don't always get to shoot at the best time of day. When I first started, you know, I said, oh, I'm just a natural light photographer. I was intimidated by things like this, these flash units here. I was scared of flash, so I called myself a natural light photographer. And the problem with being a natural light photographer, yes, there are people who do phenomenal things with natural light. And sometimes I can, well, I mean, I would say I do phenomenal anything, but I get good shots in natural light as well. But sometimes you are in situations where the light is just terrible. And if you're not using something like flash, it makes it very, very difficult to get good shots. And so that's the next thing that I want to talk about is the use of flash. I really recommend that you get at least one flash unit. If you can get multiple flash units, more power to you. I own multiple flash units. I typically, I would say probably half to 3/4 of the time that I shoot, I use one flash and a reflector. Sometimes I'll use 2, 3, 4 flashes, but not that often. Usually I'm only using one flash and a reflector. And flashes can be very expensive, especially if you go with the Canon and Nikon brand. I personally use the Yongnuo brand. They're extremely inexpensive. This particular one's the YN560 version 3. It's about $75. I recommend the YN568 version 2 flash because it does have more features than this, like high-speed sync and TTL. So it'll give you some stuff that you can grow into later. It's a little bit more expensive for the 560. I'm sorry, I don't remember if it's the 565 or the 568 EX2. But it gives you more features. But either way you go, you need at least one flash unit, and you don't ever, almost never want to use it on top of your camera. I see people all the time who are getting started and they're shooting with their flash on top of their camera, and it's a huge mistake. It's really going to impact your images. You really need something like this light stand here to get your flash off camera, something that you can put your camera on and then your flash on, and you can move it around. This particular light stand is an ePhoto light stand. There's something like $40 or $45 for a set of 2 online. When I got mine, they came with umbrellas and a few other things. So they're extremely inexpensive. They're not the best built, but whenever you're just going to use it for just a simple small flash and an umbrella, it will work well. The other thing, like I said, you are going to need an umbrella. There are several different types of umbrellas. There are shoot-through umbrellas like this. There are reflective umbrellas. I recommend that if you're just starting out, you go with the shoot-through umbrella. And I also recommend you go with the 43-inch shoot-through umbrella. The umbrellas come in a lot of different sizes. This particular one, I don't know if you can see how large it is in the video because I'm really limited on space in here. The 33-inch umbrellas, in my opinion, are just kind of small. It doesn't really spread the light out a lot to give you a very soft light. I've found that the 43 inches, they're kind of a nice compact size. You start getting in bigger than the 43 inches, and they're huge. If you're shooting indoors, oftentimes it's going to be a struggle for space, and the bigger ones also really just catch the wind and blow them over unless you have sandbags, and that's a whole nother issue. So I highly recommend that you get a flash and something to hold it off camera. Now, if you're going to shoot your flash off camera, you're going to need something to control that, something like a radio trigger or a TTL cord. TTL cords, they're not that expensive. They work well, but I personally typically use these here. These are the Yongnuo 603C flash triggers. They're just as cheap as a TTL cord. And what this will allow you to do is, instead of, like with this, you can only control one flash. With this, you can control as many flashes as you have triggers. Or actually, in the case of this YN560 flash, it doesn't even actually need a trigger. It has a built-in one. So as long as I own one that goes on top of my camera, I can control this flash. These are about $15 a piece online, so they're super cheap, and it's a great way to get started. Yes, there are other flash triggers out there like Pocket Wizards and even some of the Yongnuo flash triggers that are much more expensive that give you more features. But if you're just starting out, I really recommend this because these are dummy proof. All you've got to do is turn them on and go, and you don't have to worry about really any settings of being in high speed sync or TTL or any of the stuff that can get you confused when you're starting out. So that's the very basic, bare bones stuff that I recommend that you have if you want to get started in portrait photography. And as you go and grow, you can do things like buy more flashes and more powerful flashes, soft boxes, better lenses. Unfortunately, there's pretty much an unlimited amount of money that you can spend in being a portrait photographer. But just to get started, this is the stuff that, to be honest with you, I use probably 75 to 80% of the time that I shoot is something incredibly simple like this. And there are times that I use more complicated, more expensive gear, but for the majority of the stuff I do, this is it. This is all you really need. So I hope that helped you guys out. I'm going to put together another video where I'm going to actually show you guys some shots that I've taken just using this setup. And I'm also going to put together some stuff and show you some mistakes that I've made so that you guys can learn from that. So hopefully that helped you guys out. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave me one below. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.